Hello, friends. Welcome to my new episode of my podcast, A Digital Tomorrow. Today, I got the huge pleasure of interviewing Mohamed Roushdy, MBA. So, Mohamed, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Oriol. Thanks a lot. It's really my pleasure and honor to be part of your show today.
Well, it's actually, my pleasure. Mohamed, for all of you listeners who may not know him yet, is a Chief Information Officer, Chief Digital Officer, and FinTech and Digital Transformation Advisor. He has like this very long and extensive biography, of which I'm going to summarize some points to you, but all of you feel free to follow him on LinkedIn, for example, where he has like many followers and where he's always like posting many interesting updates. So basically, Mohamed has a professional experience of more than 20 years in different industries and business segments, financial services, both conventional and Islamic, conglomerate, real estate, consulting and advisory services, attaining 15 years experience as Chief Information Officer and CXO advisor in leading organizations in the GCC, in the Gulf countries. He was nominated as one of the top 50 CIOs in the Middle East at the IDC CIO Summit 2021. Top 50 digital leaders in the Middle East, CXO 50 by CXO Insights Middle East in 2020, among many other awards. And aside from that, he's also one of the main fintech and digital banking contributors in the Middle East through TV and business portals, interviews, and member of the Arab Monetary Fund FinTech Working Group. So once again, welcome Mohamed to my show.
Thank you, Oriol. Thanks a lot.
And now we're going to proceed by analyzing talking about some topics. First of all, I wanted to start with something very, very personal. And so basically, looking at your professional biography, which I just summarized, we can see that you had like a very long and relevant experience in your industry, being currently wearing several hats. So could you please tell us a bit more about your fascinating personal journey? Like, how did you manage to become such a relevant leader? Because I know it's always inspirational to hear from someone like you.
Thanks so much. I started my career from a technology and technical background. I'm graduated from computer engineering, and then, I moved, I was like, maybe when I started my first job, it was in a banking. Some people were surprising why you're doing in a bank, you're an engineer and a computer and so on. People used to go to IT companies most likely. But I joined a big bank in Egypt, very international bank in Egypt at this time. And I was in the IT department. And this journey affected me very much because, yes, I am in technology. I like technology very much. I like innovation. So I was been working in different areas in the bank. I was not only in one area only focusing, although I have a job in one area, but I was trying to understand and learn. At the same time, when you are in such a business, you need to understand the business as well. I try to move from being only technology to a business. This take few years, and I moved to the Gulf. And after that, I realized at the time, I want to really, help myself to move more into businesses and strategy and innovation and so on. And I think I took a very good decision at the time. I was the CIO at this time in one of the banks, and I decided to go and study an MBA because I want to move myself from being a tech, CIO to a business, more in the business, because I think the business focus is very, very important for our journey and our career. So I went to Manchester Business School. I think this was a turning stone, in my career and in my life as well. I have another case study or an interview for the same. And then I done with Manchester Business School my MBA. It was really great, focusing on strategy. And later on, when things started, coming like fintechs, like innovation, since my nature come from engineering, you like to understand and see what's going on. So I went more into more innovation, into fintechs, PropTech, and all how innovation could help businesses. And here I think that the bridge from only a techie to business and innovation helps a lot. So I can say now, alhamdulillah, I mix between both business and technology, and I'm still trying to to develop myself more in both at the same time, so I can balance the knowledge and able to transfer the knowledge to the right audience with the right thing. Because sometimes when you are technology only or business only, you are missing something. So I'm trying really to bring both worlds together.
Thank you. No, I actually agree with you. I think that nowadays we need technology. No, I mean it's not like enough, no, to be like an expert in either business or law whilst neglecting technology. No, I think that anything right now is tech related. No, so that's why I think that the future is more about talking about fintech or legal tech rather than just sticking to either business or law or well, any other field without like taking tech into consideration.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
So I think that now we should talk about fintech, of course, no? Being, as you are, a very relevant leader in the fintech area. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, like generally speaking, why do you think that fintech is becoming so important globally?
I think, I have even an interesting presentation about this. I think from 2008 onwards, after the financial crisis, there was lots of ingredients happened. You have people coming out of the banking system, you're upset from banks, things happening, people are really getting mostly affected. At the same time, you have IR4, you have technology advancement big time, you have the mobility, and people said, okay, at the time in the beginning said, okay, we need to get out of banking, let's do something else, so why not? So there used to be what I call, institutional or traditional fintechs, which is a fintechs giving services to the banks, and the bank is giving service to the consumer. Now we could see another, innovators or another revolution, I would say, or whatever movement, that some of these guys said, okay, why we don't give even services to the consumer and get the banks, aside? This was some thought, and that's why Bitcoin came, because of this thing. But this one brought something, which is the banking started seeing that some fintechs, mainly in the payment and other, they tried really to put their service to the consumer directly. And why is this happening? Because banks, I would say, at the time, the channel strategy was failing at the time. Now people could see the use of mobility very fast in other industries. We used to talk about retail, about airlines. We used to even to book your ticket online before going to banking. So there's lots of advancement, even telecom happening on the other side, in mobility and, fast speed and so on. But it was not happening in banking, because banks are big, legacy for 100 years are there, many systems on there, you have compliance, you have security, and to bring something, to life, it does take time. So people come with this innovation, they found the innovation is there, they found there is a better model to do, so why not we try it? So, and I think this came also with something I call entrepreneurship era. We have seen, PayPal, for example, was the first one. We have Facebook, we have others. People get lots of great success stories around, around entrepreneurship. So people started trying, can see, some big, money transfer in Europe, which is billions of unicorns, came out of this, and they become, even, more than many banks. So we could see there is many ingredients really brought fintech to life, what I call the disruptive fintechs, not the traditional fintechs. And that's why we could see, because they are bringing a better value for customers. So the value for our customer is more speed, and the customer experience is much better than banking. And I think banking is needed as well. So you could see this movement is happening because there is a value they are bringing to the table to the end consumer. Now we could see in the beginning, it was a zero-sum game, either banks or fintechs, and then we realized later on, or they realized later on, that it's some kind of collaboration approach between both, and everybody can fit in one area and can do better than the other. So the specialization or the focus become better for each one of the players. So that's why I see that fintechs, they are playing a good role because of this kind of movement. You can see even the technology, everything is moving differently from what we used to have. We have even the bigger computers. Then we have a smaller one. Then we have a mobile, and everything is going small, and the ability to transact become different from what you used to do. You have to move to a bank and so on. And I think that the innovator and fintechs, is playing a very good role because they are able to move fast. They are able to get the customer experience better than banks. So that's why we have fintechs today, and we can see the last 5 years there is lots of really investment going into fintech. Even during the pandemic, we could see even the number didn't go much less. Actually, it's very little, 2% or whatever globally, and in 2021 is going back very high again.
Thanks for that. I mean, I think it's a great summary in just a couple of minutes now of why fintech rose to prominence and why it's becoming like much more important day by day. Because I mean, let's face it, I think the future is about fintech now, and I think that incumbent legacy companies, they shouldn't be that much thinking of competing with fintech rather than cooperating with them, because I think that there is a huge market.
That's right.
No, please go ahead.
This is what we can see now. In the beginning, a few years back, people said, okay, fintechs will replace banks. And really, maybe this was like too much ambitious. I don't think that banks for 100 years you can do. Fintechs is very important to look at them. They are a tech company, okay? They are a very good tech platform. This tech platform can do great things for customer experience, for moving things faster, and. But if you want to have money and you keep money, you need some kind of regulation. You need the big muscle of banks, which they have been there for 100 years, and they have lots of great things they can do in the back end. As that's why banking as a service become one of the most important, appealing, product or service today. So banks can play a very good role, while fintechs, if they are able to collaborate and they bring a good products here, so they can become part of the chain. Now, I was discussing the same yesterday. I said it doesn't mean, because this is an issue about open banking. We're discussing about open banking. And people said, okay, how can we get banks to collaborate here? Because banks, they never opened their boundaries before. So now we said, okay, because there's something in it for them. They have to think this way. Today, if you are bringing a fintech and an innovator, and someone faster can even bring more value to customers and so on, then you're going to have more products, more services, more transaction. And if you're going to use the transaction fees, then you're going to even do more money. At the same time, you're going to have, instead of focusing in this front end, someone is doing better, give it to them, while you are focusing in the other part, the service which you can offer to them. And both of you are creating more businesses, more transactions, more value to our customer and consumer or corporate or businesses. And by creating more, you are getting more as well. So you shouldn't be at a loss. And I think what open banking, which is very dramatically changed here, it's bringing this value to both. So it is, as I said, it's a win-win for both. But now people, for some banks and people to realize, it's very important. It's a culture shift as well, more than a technology shift, because now people should think differently and know where they can tap into this innovation and these new models, and then they are bringing a value to them, to the consumer, to the whole ecosystem.
I agree. I fully agree. So now we spoke about fintech globally, but focusing more on the MENA region where you actually live and where you work. So how do you see the fintech scene in that region? I mean, would you say that what kind of challenges and opportunities do you see in that industry, in the fintech industry in the MENA region? Would you say that the MENA region is like going on the right path when it comes to promoting and approaching this fintech phenomenon?
Yeah, thank you. This is a very important question, actually. What happened, I think we started maybe 4 or 5 years back, as usual, people that happened in Europe and the West, and then people start thinking about it and so on. As you know, that banking are very much a regulated business. So as well, regulation is very important. And what is great here happened here in our region, in GCC mainly, and North Africa and some Arab countries here in the region, that we start having what we call a fintech centers, accelerator, incubator, you can name it. And this, the great thing, if you vote for a central bank to bring this up, the same. And central banks, they have also their own mandate. They take care very much about the country, about the stability, too many other things they are doing. And I think the great thing here is that you see, like, some other areas, some other offshore, what you can call financial services centers here in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, you have Bahrain, we have other places, or maybe in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. They came with fintech, another fintech centers, So this model came new, actually, because they didn't wait for the central bank to start working on it. They said, okay, hey, let us go and give a hand to the ecosystem. And we could see there is, many innovation. I mean, we have FinTech Hive in UAE. We have FSRA in EDGM in Abu Dhabi. FinTech Hive part of the IFC. FinTech Bay in Bahrain started even earlier. So it is working with central banks. Then later we have FinTech Saudi. All of this here in the region start really pushing the FinTech and taking a mandate, working with the regulators and said, okay, let us take this part and work for it. That's why you could see, it's going great. I think it's going very fast here, especially in UAE. I think you're going to see majority of startups happen in the region was when UAE. Saudi came later, but now it's going very, very fast. I got to know that they have 82 fintechs running in Saudi in 2 years' time. From 19 or 18, they started. Of course, UAE, you have big number, Bahrain, and then we have Egypt, and they have something with the central bank as well. So all this movement to start happening, and helping the ecosystem to be, flourish and move. What's helping here is something else, very important to look at. The demographics is very important. If you look at the percentage of, young population, which is, we call it less than 39 years old, which is, you can find a big, more than 30% or, 30 to 90, 40% of the population in the region. At the same time, you have the mobile penetration is high, more than 100% of most of the countries here, people have either one mobile or two. Then you have as well the internet penetration, you have lots of internet everywhere. So you have all of these ingredients, which is, and if you bring innovation in place, then you are able really to, to ride this kind of infrastructure or, ingredients. So this is a great thing. So what's important here, you can see some of the neighboring countries have a problem with financial inclusion. Like Egypt, for example, they have 70%. Morocco, for example, they have 70 plus, and unbanked. We have somewhere in Lebanon and other places here, even in GCC, is a little bit, but UAE, Saudi is high. So you have some, need here. The need is there, and because of the businesses are moving fast, we have, we are in the center here. Dubai, for example, and UAE is a big business hub. So business want to move faster because they are dealing with everywhere elsewhere, and they want to move faster. They want to find, a way to open an account quickly, to do is transaction quickly, and so on. So we have all these ingredients. We have the government support. As I said, in this incubator or accelerator, we have every year in these accelerators, many fintechs get graduated. I found fascinating as well. Many of the fintech get graduated here from the regions. They go somewhere else. And in one of the Islamic fintechs, they graduated from here and they are working in Southeast region, in Russia and other places. So it is really fascinating because you can see that ecosystem is helping, or what has been built here is helping the region and even elsewhere. So I think this all is there is helping big time, and the government, the funding as well. We could see every day, I can see there's some funding happening with one of the fintechs or one of the startups. So I could say that I called our region here like the Silicon Valley of the Middle East, because, things are moving. We have lots of development. I call Dubai like that. So I think we have great things happening here in the region.
I fully agree. I actually myself, I'm a mentor at several incubators and accelerators from East Asia, most of them. And I must say that last year, when checking the incubators and accelerators scene in the Middle East, I was actually surprised to see so many new organizations being created in the area. I mean, in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai. I was surprised in the sense that, of course, I expected there to be many incubators and accelerators, but maybe I didn't expect there to be so many compared to other places. So that's great, no? In order to create like the right fintech environment.
I think even we move farther here, I like very much, I was discussing with one of my CIO colleagues in one of the banks even I worked for before. And these banks, some of the big banks, they started doing their own, I would say, competition, I would say. They invite all fintechs for some problem statement. And they said, okay, we need something for SME financing. We need something for, SME or businesses for consumer. And then they start working with fintechs. Many fintechs apply there. And they started looking at them and see who they can. They help them out for a few months, and then at the end they select the ones they work with. Recently, as well, we have another, award with one of the banks for the Islamic FinTech. So, banks started, some of the banks, not all, and this is a great thing. I hope many banks do the same. So they start trying to find these innovators where they are, and they pick them up and start working with them. And this is really building the ecosystem and promoting, the innovation.
Yes, indeed. I mean, that's very important. It's very important to be able to spot them, to spot them where they are, the innovators, because, I mean, innovators are everywhere, but you need to be capable of creating an environment which allows you to spot that innovator and allow him to grow, in that sense. There is one area related to fintech, which is, of course, that of Islamic FinTech, and that's related to fintech and Islamic finance. And well, I wanted to ask you, because, recently I was invited by the Indonesian Financial Authority, OJK, to participate in a very interesting conference as a gift member, because I call it the Financial Inclusion and CBDC Working Group at the Global Impact FinTech Forum. So I was invited there to talk about Islamic FinTech. I actually covered blockchain in Islamic finance, basically, and also the future of the industry of takaful. And well, basically, I wanted we discussed about how the Islamic fintech industry looks like and what it's going to look like in a few years from now. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on this. Like, do you think this industry is living up to its full potential, or there are still many areas of improvement before we can actually say that it's thriving?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think there is many areas for enhancement. The great thing here happening because conventional fintech move, and later on the digital, Islamic fintech started after. So this is also happening. The wave came after the conventional wave, and now we could see that there is, a big as well, activities happening on the Islamic fintech as part of the, World Islamic FinTech report last year. It's the industry of Islamic fintech, valued at $49 billion US, and in 2025 they expect to be 128 billion US. So you are talking about really, a big, increase in the industry. I have a report. I'm very proud that I was part of the Arab Monetary Fund Islamic FinTech report, which was launched last month, and we even looked at this one. It is going great, but there is many good areas need still, to be tapped in. For example, you mentioned takaful. For example, takaful is one of the areas there is not much work on it, but if you can see as well, same insurance in the conventional fintechs as well is not much. Still it comes after others. There is some work happening, but the same here way in Islamic fintech, you're gonna see that takaful there is big opportunity. I think the great thing in Islamic fintech, what we call social finance, social fintech. They want to talk about sadaqah, zakat, and the charity. This is a great, and you talk about waqf. You have lots of billions of dollars under waqf, which is not really well used or well taken. Like it needs to be something that really can be promoted to a big time, especially waqf. And we have seen some great use cases around waqf. It's worldwide. We have few fintechs in Malaysia and in the region here working on waqf. We have UNCHR doing something about zakah, even for collection. So I think there is great work to be done in some products which is really missing still there in the Islamic fintech, like waqf and and takaful. While the same issue which is facing Islamic fintech is facing other as well, which is the funding. Because yes, we have lots of innovation happening. We have great ideas. We have people who want to do things, but the funding is still a gap. And scalability, scaling as well, because the problem we're facing, this is conventional and Islamic, that people would like, if you come to a country like UAE, for example, there's 9 million people. Then if you want to do it, you do a fintech here, you want to go to Saudi, 33 million to scale, or Egypt, 110 million to scale, then you have to go in the same process with the regulators again, not like in Europe. In Europe, it's more, you have Europe, you put a company somewhere or a fintech, then the boundaries will be much lesser than what we are having here. So the scalability around this is very important too. Some of the Islamic fintech, when they are only, which we give this recommendation in the report, they only try to say that it's not for Muslims only, because see, the great thing for Islamic fintech is the transparency and risk is sharing. There is great things around, so it's really for everybody, and that's why the offering should be different. You should go to the mass. You should even go and and this needs some kind of awareness as well, either for the Islamic fintech or even for the consumer. So the awareness is important. So this needs also collaboration between different fintech centers. This is what we said. Even the fintech hubs I mentioned here in the GCC, for example, they should collaborate together, and they collaborate with the ones in Malaysia, because even we came on Islamic fintech report, we found that there are 3 hubs. The one in Malaysia, in Asia, which is Malaysia and Indonesia. One in the GCC, which is UAE, Saudi, and Bahrain, and other countries in the GCC, and the one in Western countries is UK. This is the 3 hubs for Islamic fintechs. So the collaboration among these, hubs is very, very important. So you can promote really the Islamic fintech. But I believe it's moving, it's going great. We could see even some very innovative ways here, mainly in Saudi Arabia recently. Some few fintechs in 2020 went there, even buy now, pay later, from a Sharia point of view there. Invoice financing using crowdfunding. with their Sharia compliant. We could see there are other things for SME financing going here in the region. We have even a new here, the first crowdfunding company. They do conventional and do Islamic, even they went of Islamic long time back here in UAE. So I think we have great things happening for Islamic finance, but they need some kind of, they need some help, as I said, from funding, from scalability, from bringing all the ecosystem to talk together.
No, I mean, I think you mentioned like many interesting ideas right now. For example, it was interesting for you to mention now Waqf and Zakat, no, because one of the conclusions of my research was precisely that the use of new technologies like blockchain, those areas, might help make those processes much more efficient, much more faster, transparent, and in general, I would say that the word would be that one, efficient. Aside from that, you also mentioned like the three main hotspots for Islamic FinTech worldwide. Yes. And also the fact, and I like that idea very much, that Islamic FinTech can be for everyone. And that's why a few years ago I wrote some papers on the idea of trying to help Hong Kong become a hub for Islamic finance, even though Hong Kong's population is not Muslim now in its majority, but still I wrote that paper, but I don't see that area taking off. No, I mean, I suggested the idea of like doing more sukuk rounds, but
yes,
it didn't like actually become that relevant. But I still hope that someday we'll get there.
I think I agree with you. You know, even I know one of the a big I say insurtech companies globally. They have the same principle of Islamic takaful. You know, they don't call them Islamic takaful, but they have an insurance company. The transparency, the sharing of the pooling and the profits, and whatever interest, there is a great thing. I'm saying the concept itself is great for everybody because it brings both parties here on the same level. You are sharing profit, you are sharing risks, it's transparency there. And I agree with you that the Waqf one, the use cases I talk about it, it's all built on the blockchain. And this is a great thing, using the technology, because the issue about social finance, which is waqf and zakah and sadaqah, is a transparency, and that's why some people you don't like sometimes to go online because they want to know exactly where this money is going. So the blockchain and the technology play a big role here, and the takaful one I mentioned is using blockchain, and this was a great use case, and I think is going other places in Africa.
No, and yes, and I agree with you with what you said now. I mean, I think that's one of the amazing things about Islamic finance, that idea that its principles can actually be of interest to pretty much anyone in the whole world, no? And I know that whenever I talk about this topic to some people, when you start by saying, Sharia compliant finance, some people, especially in the West, they may feel a bit like, I'm not going to say worried, but they may feel a bit maybe distracted because they think it's going to be very religious, but at the same time, I mean, regardless of the religious aspect of it, I mean, its principles is what you said now, no? And this idea of like sharing the profits, the risks, avoiding uncertainty, that kind of ideas, I think that can be of interest to pretty much like anyone in the whole world. So that's why
I agree. Even I think the marketing part needs to change. Sometimes we say the ethical financing.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
I know some other conventional said, what do you mean? You mean we're not ethical? But this is the same. That like sustainability today. It is very much going with ESG. So I believe, the marketing or the message need to be to change, so people understand what is the principle behind this mode of financing. Though it has some, religious, background, but it does mean like all the religion, it's for fairness for everybody. So this is what we are trying, to say. That's
exactly
important.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
That people know the concept itself.
Exactly. Yes, that's my point. I mean, I was talking at a business school once, letting my students know what Islamic finance actually is, and they were surprised after my 2-hour session because they told me, well, I mean, that's purely like ethical finance. I mean, it's not about. I mean, you can of course be religious if you want, and I mean, you're free to do that, but the core is more about like ethical principles that we are all interested in, regardless of where we come from.
I agree, and that's why the message needs to change, and even the customer segment not to change. You are giving it for everybody. There is no difference really. The only thing, if you know the principles, then you know that this is a great thing, for people to use, and we hope that other conventions do the same. That's very important here.
So before wrapping up this very interesting discussion with you, Mohamed, I would like to ask you about a bit more about financial inclusion, because as I said before, I mean, aside from blockchain, cryptos and CBDCs, my main area of interest is that of financial inclusion, which I know it might not be that of a big concern in maybe Europe or the places where I live, like Hong Kong or Qatar, but still, I mean, I know it's a big concern in many areas. You mentioned before Egypt, also Sub-Saharan Africa, India, Pakistan. So I know you mentioned this a bit before, but still, I would like you maybe to give a bit,
I think
like a few more ideas on you know, how do you think that fintech can help promote financial inclusion? No, because you mentioned that before a bit, but I would like to hear a bit.
No, but no, I think it is very, very important, because there is unfortunate that we have a big population in some countries. When, as I said, some countries 70%, some 60, 40, 50 here in the region, Middle East and Africa and Asia, which you don't have, you don't deal with money, it's all cash. And this is really, people are missing an opportunity to do many things for their, money, and the ability to even get some financing and all of this. It's very, very important for them really to have the opportunity, not only to have a bank account and able to do payment. We need to go more than that to do financing, like microfinancing, for example. Microfinancing, for example, it's very important. And for such countries, I could see there is some even, a mode in USA and other places, which is not in this developed, underdeveloped countries, is people, they have the one-day loan, okay? People going, for example, today in Africa and other places, people going in the morning to buy some stuff to sell it, and afternoon to put the money back. Why we don't do this one? So these guys, the guys are poor, they buy some fruits or something, they go to the market to sell it, and at the end of the day they get some money. So why don't give them the money in the morning, take it in the evening? Let us think about it to help people with this one. So it's not, so we have many of these. If you look how much money outside of the banking system in this country is a lot. And now we need to help these people, even, as I said, to use the banking or to have an account, and at the same time they are able to get financing and to help them out in education, in whatever. So we need to think it, because very seriously, actually, that as soon as you bring these people in the system, then I think the whole ecosystem, everybody will be benefiting, and then at least we can help them out and help the economy. So I believe this is very important. We could see now, as I said in many keynotes, today your bank branch is your mobile. You don't need to go. And the issue we used to face before, that these guys, how can go to a bank and get papers and to open an account, and this is not there anymore. So if you are able to facilitate like the mobile money in Kenya and M-Visa, for example, it was a great innovation happening before anybody else. So we need to have the same everywhere, where people can, using their mobile, they're able to onboard lightly, they're able to transact, they're able to receive funds. So it's very important. Here, technology, fintechs play a very, very big role. I think we have the first unicorn in the region here is in Egypt. When they started this agent banking, and in the grocery and everywhere, people are able to pay bills and put money. It started from this. So it's very important that financial inclusion, it's very important for all the fintechs. I think many fintechs went in payment, by the way, 30 to 40% in the region are in payment, and really helping this kind of segment. I take you to something else, you'll be surprised. The businesses, for example, the SMEs, they have a difficult time to get in financing. Those they have a bank, we can tell the guys that they have a bank account, that's all, but they're not able to get financing. This is another inclusion, but it's another, I would say, another level that people are not able to get financing. They still move cash. So I think there is many levels here. One is the access, to get access to banking, and the other one is the usage, the ability to use this money, and the ability to really get benefits of the ecosystem around them, and the government helping them, and so on. So it's very, very crucial. I think mobility is helping, blockchain is helping big time as well. Some use cases is great, because your mobile, as I said, become your bank, your bank account, everything is your mobile number. That's it. That's more than enough.
Well, I mean, there are like so many interesting takes and ideas to get from what you said, and I would of course love to keep discussing this for much longer, but we are actually reaching now the end of our podcast, of our session. But of course, feel free to join me in my show anytime you want in the future.
That's great, really. I thank you again for this opportunity. It's a great opportunity, and we need to talk more and try to help our ecosystem, our communities, and so on. It's really very important thing it's a duty for all of us as well. Thank you very much for inviting me.
No, I mean, I look forward to hosting you again. And well, to all our listeners, thank you very much for listening to this episode of A Digital Tomorrow, and stay tuned for the next episodes. Thank you very much, and see you all soon.
Take care. Stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum.